What happens when Pluto, the planet of power, death, and regeneration, stations direct at the very first degree of Aquarius? We cross a threshold between worlds. The old systems crumble and the new ones haven't yet formed. This is the moment the builders of the new earth are called to rise. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Patricia, your spiritual awakening coach and founder of the Cosmic Energy Academy. Here we blend astrology, intuition, and grounded practice so that sacred change makers like yourself can live, lead, and create from your highest frequency. If you're new here, welcome to our circle. Make sure you subscribe, tap the bell so you don't miss these weekly forecasts and deep dives like this one. And if you've been with me for a while, thank you. You are part of this living, breathing experiment in conscious evolution. Later in this video, I'll go through all 12 risings in detail so that you can hear exactly how this Pluto station into Aquarius is moving through your chart. So on October 13th, 2025, Pluto will turn direct. It stations, meaning it slows down and stops in the sky, and then it goes direct on October 13th, 2025. It's doing this in the position of 1 degree, 22 minutes of Aquarius. It has been retrograde since May. It has been digging up the old power dynamics. It has been pulling out the shadow contracts, and it has been demolishing energetic residues that we can no longer carry into the future. When Pluto stations direct, it moves so slowly that the energy condenses. It is like magma building pressure beneath the crust. It is not a soft transition. It is a reversal of gravity. Those who have been with me for a while know that I call Pluto the great kitchen remodeler. Kitchen remodels are never fun, and they are a big upheaval where we do a demolition first, right? Things get ripped out and crumbled away before we can bring in the new. Now, when a slow planet like Pluto stations, it holds its symbolic power at maximum intensity. Pluto's already about intensity, and it's about transformation. So these days surrounding October 13th aren't about rushing forward. They are feeling the tectonic plates of your life realign, not just your life, the lives of everyone on the planet and of the planet itself. So let's talk about Aquarius. Traditionally, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. It governs systems and collective consciousness, networks, technology, our shared ideals of progress. It is the sign of inclusivity. It is also the sign of liberation through structure. It's the paradox of creating freedom by building better containers. Now, when Pluto, the Lord of Transformation, enters this sign and stations direct here, we witness the death of one collective structure and the birth of another. And that is not poetic exaggeration. It is the literal signature of history turning over, old hierarchies of power dissolving, outdated economic, spiritual, all kinds of systems, educational, financial, you name it, breaking apart, and new decentralized networks rising in their place. We saw similar shifts when Pluto moved through Aquarius from 1778 to 1798. This was the era of revolutions, of declarations and inventions that redefined humanity's sense of power. But this time, the revolution is energetic. It is not about overthrowing kings necessarily. Yes, it is in a way. It's about reclaiming sovereignty of our own consciousness. And then the result of that is a letting go and a breaking apart what does not align with that consciousness. So many of you have already felt it, you're feeling it, right? The old world, the one that was built on control, on extraction, on hierarchy, it is no longer sustainable. The new earth isn't a place we might migrate to. It is a frequency that we anchor through our daily choices. So some of us might be in the frequency of the new earth already or moving in that direction. Other people are not, which is why we can see such vast differences in what what we're seeing with our eyes, right? So Pluto going direct in Aquarius is now opening a portal for the builders, the healers, the artists, and the light architects to start manifesting tangible blueprints of that new reality. We're still in the demolition phase, but hey, we've got to have that plan in place too, right? So we don't just demolish with nothing behind it, right? We have a goal, we have an imprint, we have a place we're trying to get to. And so if you are listening to this, you are somehow a part of that. You are those builders. Your art, your circles, your sacred offerings, whatever it is you're feeling that pull and that call to put out into the world, these are the scaffolding of this new civilization that is rooted in cooperation, transparency, and energetic integrity. This is not the time to scale old systems. This is why if you have a business, you might feel like those old bro marketing ways are just not working anymore. Or looking at someone else who's been successful and seeing how they did it and trying to copy that. Not going to work anymore. This is the time to seed new systems, systems built from resonance, from alignment, instead of obligation. Now, this is happening, this stopping with this heaviness of the energy before going forward is happening at 1 degree of Aquarius. Why does that matter? The first degree of any sign holds the purest essence of that archetype. It is the baby, right? The babies are born pure, right? So this is the baby Aquarius in this instance. So it's the purest essence of Aquarius. 1 degree of Aquarius is the spark of this future vision, the first breath of inclusivity and community after Capricorn's solitary climb. That idea, I have to build a legacy, I have to build a hierarchy. No more, right? This is where we ask, what is the next pattern of evolution? So when Pluto stations here, the planet of transformation, it is as though the cosmic architect is now turning on the light in the drafting room and is saying, okay, here we are. We got to start again, back to the drawing board. But this time we're building it for souls, not systems. Now I'd love to, as you guys know, bring into this the tarot, the associations with the tarot. And in the first decan, the first 10 degrees of Aquarius, which is where we find 1 degree of Aquarius, the card associated with that is the 5 of Swords. And the other card that we're going to look at is the Star card in the major arcana of the tarot. The Star is the tarot card associated with the astrological sign of Aquarius in general. So the 5 of Swords, traditionally, this card shows a battlefield just after a conflict. Someone stands holding 3 swords while 2 lie abandoned on the ground and others walk away. It's the moment after the argument when you realize that winning cost more than it was worth. The 5 of Swords teaches discernment between fighting for truth and fighting for ego. And in the new earth, power is not about domination. It is about resonance, it's frequency, it's energy. So this card is asking, where are you still trying to convince or convert rather than embody? Now, here's a little reflection that you can use in a practical way. Are you exhausting yourself, explaining your vision to those who can't meet you there? Are you fighting to keep a community, a partnership, a platform, anything alive that no longer holds your frequency? If so, Pluto's message now is lay down that sword. The new world does not need your defense, your fight for it. It needs your design. It needs your imprint, your blueprint, your energetic frequency. Let's look at the Star. This is the soul of Aquarius. The Star comes right after the Tower card in the major arcana. The Tower is the collapse. The Star is what rises from the rubble, calm, luminous, replenished, This card is hope, but it is not naive hope. It is faith that is rebuilt on truth. It is spiritual hydration after years of drought. So in the star, we see a woman pouring one jug into the earth. Earth represents matter, and one jug into the water, which represents spirit. So she is restoring the balance between heaven and earth. This is the essence of Aquarius, the water bearer, which is ruled by Saturn traditionally. And it brings that divine imprint, that divine blueprint into practical reality. That is the essence of Aquarius. And Saturn, as its ruler, traditionally was the last planet people could see. So it defined the boundary of the known world and the unknown world, the physical world and the spirit world. It was the gatekeeper between the two. And so as the ruler of Aquarius, it is what is bringing in that connection between the divine and practical reality. So if the Five of Swords shows the clearing, then the star shows the rebuilding. Together, they form the exact narrative of Pluto stationing direct in early Aquarius. Conflict ends, truth is revealed, a new creation begins. And we are smack in the middle of this, my friends. A little bit on the conflict side, moving into truth being revealed, but it's happening. So ask yourself, where am I ready to stop arguing with the old world and start architecting the new? Where are you gripping on too tight to ways that just are not working anymore in your personal life, in your business life, in your work life, in your family life, in your community, and out into the broader world? So an example might be, instead of fighting these social media algorithms, maybe just start hosting live circles on a private platform or in person. Instead of explaining energy work, or in my case, astrology, to skeptics, pour that time into teaching those who are already feeling the call, who are already curious about it. Instead of debating about what spirituality looks like, just simply live yours visibly. That's Five of Swords transmuted into the star. This is conflict into creation. So remember, Aquarius's traditional ruler is Saturn. So while this transit is revolutionary, its modern co-ruler, I don't really do those, but story for another day, is revolutionary. But it's not reckless. It's revolutionary with a purpose. Saturn asks for stewardship. Pluto brings in depth and power. So together, there is this energy of use your power wisely, build something that will last. Don't rush to manifest 1,000 new projects. Choose one and root it deeply. And this is why it's so important to be aligned to your own energy and your own calling, and not be looking to the outer world to tell you what you need to be doing. Because as I've said many times, we are all our own little puzzle piece, and the world needs every little puzzle piece being itself, or else the puzzle won't fit together. So whatever it is you're being called, whatever you're being pulled to put out into the world to do, if it's something very small, like serving on a school board, considered small, or planting native plants in your garden, planting vegetables, community garden, whatever. It could be anything. It could be something big, running for office. It could be other big movements, but it's whatever you are being called to do. We need it. We all need it right now, because every one of us has our little piece of the puzzle to play in this. So together, these planets are saying, build something that's going to last, choose one, root it deeply. And so instead of launching 5 offers, refine one sacred program that truly changes lives. Instead of scattering your energy, being involved in all kinds of things, create a rhythm. One circle per moon phase, one newsletter that feels like a ritual, one family gathering a month. Keep it sustainable. Sustainability is spirituality under this sky. All right, so let's talk collectively a little bit. We're entering an 11-year arc, 2025 to 2036, where Pluto is moving in and out of bounds in Aquarius, which basically means it is moving beyond the path the sun takes. If you drew it around the Earth, what it looks like. When a planet moves outside of that kind of pathway, it's considered out of bounds. And when a planet is out of bounds energetically, what that means is that power itself is stepping outside of the old rules. In this case, Pluto, which represents power, force, transformation. It is stepping out of the old rules. So we could see things like decentralized communities replacing these kind of top-down Capricornian hierarchies. We could see more things like astrology and energy healing and consciousness work becoming more mainstream, catalysts for leadership. Might even start seeing, I had this conversation just recently, just a few hours ago with somebody, where we might start seeing corporations that are using human design instead of, Myers-Briggs as their team building assessment. Technology and spirituality merging, where AI and quantum tools are used for awakening, not control. We might see global movements that are led by small circles of embodied people. I heard recently what it takes to create a movement is 4 people, 4 committed people. So don't think you have to create this big, massive thing. Who are 3 other people that have the same urge as you, and work together with them? It's going to be these small communities that change the world, not these large institutions. But each of these shifts starts within each of us. And so when you reclaim that sovereignty over your attention, your energy, stop scrolling, put the phone down, your creative output, you are participating in this planetary recoding. Take a breath and ask yourself, where am I still living by someone else's rhythm? Where am I being pulled into an energy that is not my own natural one? Sit with that a bit. Comment below one area where you're ready to reclaim your timeline. So Pluto Direct is not something that you understand. It is something that moves through your body. You might feel pressure in your chest. You might feel strange fatigue, surges of creativity that make no logical sense. This is your system that is trying to recalibrate to a new energetic template, one that's going to be with us for a while. So don't override it with productivity. Partner with it, move with it, rest with it, take action with it. Follow that energy. Each morning, here's a great practice you can do. Each morning, place one hand over your heart and one on your lower belly, and say out loud, I am a bridge between worlds. I ground higher frequency through my body. Take in 3 slow breaths in through the nose, and exhale twice as long through the mouth, 3 times. As you're exhaling, let any tension drain into the earth. This is simple, repeatable, sovereign. All right. Now everyone's favorite part. I am going to do the all signs. I know people love them. I used to do them on my old channel, and I stopped. I didn't do very many because, well, they're not they're not my favorite thing to do. But I do know people get a lot out of them, and I know people love them. And so I will be doing them for key videos that are talking about key events. I will be doing them so that you know for your rising sign how whatever event I'm talking about will be affecting you and your rising sign. Now, that's one of the keys. These are the sign you should be looking for is your rising sign. That is the one that this is going to make the most sense for. However, your sun and moon signs will also play a part. And I know that there's a lot of people that don't know what their rising sign is. And again, you can always, get a session with me, and we can find that out. But you do need your birth time to be able to do that. So in the cases that you do not know your rising sign, you can use your sun sign as a symbolic guide, and you can use your moon sign, if you know it, for the emotional layer. And for those of us who know all 3, you can look at all 3 of those and kind of get a layered view of how this event might be affecting you. So each sign that I'm going to be going through in a minute will include the what Pluto is transforming. What part of your life is it transforming? It will talk a little bit about the shadow pattern, that 5 of Swords tarot card we mentioned, and the star path from the Star Tarot card, the concrete ways to live that higher octave of this energy. And so we begin. As always, we start with Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. And for you, this is occurring in your 11th house of community and vision, of groups, associations, of your hopes and your dreams. The transformation is around your social field, okay? Your allies, your friends, your groups, your organizations you belong to, and your online presence, and any kind of sense of belonging wherever you feel that or don't feel it. And so what you might notice is a need to prove your worth inside these groups. So if you're in a group and you're feeling like, oh, I need to kind of prove myself, or in any way you are somehow feeling that your energy is just not matching, that there's a mismatch of some sort. Maybe they're going off in a direction that doesn't feel right to you, or if there's any kind of resonance that doesn't feel resonant, that is not a good feeling, where it's like out of sync in some way, this is maybe time to let go of that particular group, whether they're friends, associations, any kind of groups that you belong to. This is also true for your hopes, your dreams, your vision. If you no longer are aligned, if you're working towards something that you decided on many years ago, and now you're finding you're just not feeling it anymore, this might be the time to let it go. So this is now about curating your circles, okay? Quality over quantity. Let go of some of the groups you belong to. Let go of maybe some hopes, dreams, or visions that you thought were the thing, and maybe they just aren't, or maybe they're changing in some way. So you are at this time being called to birth or revive a new earth network that's built on a shared frequency. Okay? Find your people that are on the shared frequency with you. This is not about status, right? This is not about, oh, I have this frequency and therefore I am, I have to do this thing. No, everything is much more collaborative in what we're building, right? So find the people that are resonating the same frequency with you and do something together. Like I mentioned, just start with 3 other people. 4 of you can make a movement start happening. So, a tiny example might be a Facebook group where, it's just a lot of noise going on for you, and maybe start a space somewhere else, Telegram or whatever your choice is. That's a much more intimate place where you can do more collaboration and maybe some meditation and ritual and things like that together. All right, Taurus. This is happening in the house of sacred work, the calling, the vocation. The transformation that is happening is your role in the public, your purpose, how you lead, how you are seen to the world. What is your reputation in the world? Who are you in the world, right? So I always talk about it in terms of calling and vocation, the thing you are being called to do. This is where this Pluto is happening. And so what might show up is that you are equating a stability, feeling stable, with being in control. And so with that, you might then be holding on to an old identity because it feels safe. It feels, oh, this is stable, so therefore this is meant to continue. But because Pluto, the kitchen remodeler, is coming through this part of your life and ripping out the cabinets as we speak, it might be time for a little bit of a remodel in this area. So just because it feels safe, just because it's the kitchen you've had for 30 years, does not mean it's the one that you need to continue with. So take a look in this part of your life and see what letting your vocation, like it's time for it to evolve. Ask yourself, what if success meant peace? I would say take this time to define what success is for you. Because I think we're finding as we move into these newer times that it's not necessarily anymore it was the house with the white picket fence and the 2.5 children and a dog and a cat and a college education and a job that you stay out for 30 years. Like, that is long gone. It's been long gone. And even the stuff that's kind of been taking its place, it's all in the works of crumbling down. And so who are you in this new world? What is your resonance? What is your frequency? And who are you meant to be out in the world? What is your vocation, your calling? And rewrite it. Rewrite your title. What's your new title? Make one up. Who are you now? Not who were you trained to be. So an example might be someone who's a business coach, and you maybe have been doing this standard idea of business coaching and the strategy and the, values of the company and, the usual kind of how we did things. And now maybe you're becoming something more like an earth steward for conscious creators, or you're just doing your business in a very different way. But this is the area of life for you that you need to be taking a look at and shifting. All right, for Gemini, this is happening in your ninth house. This is the house of philosophy, of beliefs, of teachings, of higher mind, of your voice as guide. We often sometimes put spirituality in this house. Anything that expands our mind, right? So philosophy, organized religions goes in there, interestingly, higher education, and our belief structures. So our belief systems and like I said, your voice as your guide, that inner wisdom. So things that expand us. Now, in this area, you guys are going to feel maybe that your energy is scattered across too many frameworks, that you're trying to debate what's real, what's not, what's right, what's wrong, what is spiritual, what's not, instead of embodying, okay? So you're being asked to choose a lineage, choose a principle, and deepen that. So if you're into, you're feeling called to do ancestral healing, pick it, and go really deep into it. If you are called to, I don't know, what's another one? To follow maybe a more like a Buddhist type path, right? Then follow that. Go deep into it. Pick some readings. Stick with it a while and go deep rather than broad. But pick something. Pick a path at this point. You might have found yourself, especially, this Gemini energy is about like, it can get very scattered, right? So Gemini in this area of your chart, you might already realize that you've been someone who is collecting all the data and learning all the things about spirituality or about philosophy or belief teachings, that sort of a thing. And so this is the time now to really kind of, okay, let's just pick one. Even if you just stick with it for a while, stick with it for 6 months and see where it leads you, and then go deep with, if you're called to do something else, go deep with that. But the idea now is to go deep rather than broad. And so an example might be, that you create a program that it might combine a few things. It might combine something like the Enneagram and journaling in order to teach people how to embody their own truths. I don't know, something like that, right? But it's kind of pick a thing, pick a path, pick a belief, pick if you have your own business or you're starting to get into your own business, pick one thing and stick with it for a while before you start veering off. It takes time. And you, especially Geminis, are going to be needing to remember that, okay? Pick one thing, go deep. All right, Cancer rising or moon or sun. This is happening now in your eighth house of transformation, of obsessions. This is the house of, I like to call it the house of obsessions, things we lay awake at night thinking about. So things like other people's money, which means debt, basically, loans, money partnerships. Let's put a positive spin on it, even inheritances, death, because we get death plus other people's money equals an inheritance sometimes. It's also the house of emotional intimacy, like at a deeper level, and this energetic exchanges. Now, what you might be feeling, my Cancer people, is that you are over giving in these exchanges in order to feel safe. Maybe you're rescuing other people from their lessons. That's a big one with this Cancer energy, right? So take a look at that. Where are you jumping in and helping, rescuing other people when their soul is needing to go on this path that they're on? They might have to learn something the hard way, and you are taking their lesson away by jumping in and feeling like you need to rescue them and overgiving to them in order for them to feel safe and for you to feel like, oh, I see something might be coming. It might not be your place to jump in and fix. Can you say something to them? Can you maybe, hey, I'm noticing this. Yes. And let it go. So this is going to be for you about stating, like knowing what your energetic and your financial boundaries are. Figure that out and then state them clearly. So when they get bumped up against, you are ready to say no if it warrants a no. Practice equal energy exchange in every collaboration that you do. Make sure there's a fair exchange happening. So if you have a business, an example might be that you are shifting from donation only sessions to sliding scale packages with energetic agreements that are written as vows, not contracts, right? So instead of just giving it all away to anyone and everyone, you can at least bring in a sliding scale, and you can put some boundaries around what that looks like. Okay, Leos. All right, this is happening in your seventh house of important relationships. The transformation, this is about mirrors, okay? This is about personal and professional relationships. And Leo is always about identity. And so if you have Leo rising, that Pluto is now opposing it. And so it's about looking across, looking at this transformation. Look in the mirror, right? So it's about important relationships with others, but it's also about that important relationship with yourself and who you are. And who are you in the group? Who are you in presence of other people? The shadow that might be coming up to be healed is around control of the narrative, control of the relationship. There could be an element of pride and ego that Leo sometimes gets into that you might need to be aware of, and maybe a need to be for admiration, for approval seeking. Be sure that you're not doing things in the world, and especially in relationships, that are more around getting that positive feedback. You're going to need to be really clear on your identity and who you are and what your boundaries are and what your energy is and what it's not, so that you are only pulling from that. You want to practice co-creation instead of a performance where people, oh, that was wonderful, right? It's going to be this more co-creation, collaborate, all the collaboration, cooperation with important relationships. So name what reciprocity feels like in your heart. What does that look like for you? You get to redesign how you're interacting with others, whether that's in business, in family, at home, in groups that you belong to. And ideally, there's no hierarchy. It is about sharing your resonance, sharing your light. Okay, Virgos. So this is happening in the sixth house of daily habits, daily devotion, of obligations. So this is around work rhythms, things we do repetitively. This is habits. This is health and the things we need to do to take care of our health. Those are usually repetitive things. You take your supplements every day. You wash yourself every day. You brush your teeth every day. These are things that have a rhythm to them. So they fall under this house of obligations and daily rhythms. This is also the house of sacred service. So with Virgo, we can get into this idea of perfectionism being disguised as humility and about serving without receiving. So watch for where you're over serving. Make sure that rest and ritual, let ritual become your new habit. Let rest become your new habit. You probably have a schedule for work. You probably have a schedule for exercise. You probably have a schedule for when you eat. So build a temple schedule. Build a spiritual, sacred renewal schedule where you can then nourish and serve and reflect. So an example might be that you replace endless client hours with rhythm. So you decide you're working Tuesdays through Thursdays, 3 sessions a day. You maybe take a daily walk out in nature to reconnect. You maybe set up some kind of transition time between meetings, between clients, between creative work and then practical work. But those transition times are great for setting up some kind of rhythm that might be like a walk or some sort of movement in the evening, maybe creating a gratitude log so that you are being asked in this sixth house to transform. That's where Pluto is going to be sitting. Transform what you're doing for your health, for the service that you give to others, which should honor your health as well, so that you can keep serving. These are all sixth house type areas where Pluto is pushing through. And again, these will also resonate for your sun sign and your moon sign, maybe in a different way. Next is Libra. So here, this is going to be about creative sovereignty. This is where, this is in the area of life where you experience pleasure, where you are creative and have your self-expression, whatever that looks like for you, where there's maybe romance and fun and hobbies and joy and play. And what you might find is that if you are starting to play in a way or do something creative in a way, that you might fall into the trap of doing it a certain way because you think that's how people like it, or that's how they might want it. So that people pleasing in your creativity. And so we want to be sure you're not doing that. Don't dim your weird to fit in. Be your misfit self. Honor that and put that out into the world. So watch out for that shadow that might be coming up saying, oh, you're too big, you're too much. That's not the right way to do it. That's not how so-and-so did it, who got, made a lot of money doing that. And you're just going to be a big failure. Like whatever that voice is telling you about your creativity, whatever that is. And, creativity doesn't have to be art. It often is applied to that, and it definitely can be, but it's how you express yourself in whatever way you do that, right? And so sometimes you express through your work, or which might be, you might be an accountant, I don't know, and the way you do it is a very creative way, or just whatever you're here doing on earth. And if you are self-expressing, however you're self-expressing, we just want to be sure that you are self-expressing for the pure joy of it, for the playfulness of it, for the fun of it, for your own fulfillment. And who resonates with it resonates, and who doesn't, you be you. All right, so watch out for that. And so, some ways to do this are, you could make something that almost feels too honest. Like, oh, should I say this? Should I show this? Right? Should I be this? Right? Watch out for those. Do one of those. Don't watch out. I mean, watch yourself do it. Do it. Right? Make something like that. Offer beauty that heals instead of impresses. That isn't the perfect whatever. Make it raw, make it what comes out of you. And so, like, an example might be that you publish a raw poetry series, maybe about aging, some other death, something that people don't often want to look at. And that, who knows, the people that find that are going to resonate with that are the ones that are in need of your self-expression and how you do it. That is what the world is waiting for. All right, Scorpio, we're talking about our roots and our ancestry, family ties, lineage. It can literally be your home, your physical, literal home. It can be the family of origin or the home that you came from, homeland. It can also just be your emotional foundation. All of these areas are having that Pluto pushing through, remodeling them for you. And so you might start seeing secret power struggles in your family dynamics, having this power versus force kind of thing going on, or in your home, in your housemates, whoever's living with you, or something like silence being used as control. And so what we want to do is, what you would want to do, if this is you, is to declutter any kind of ancestral ties, any kind of ancestral relics, and keep only what holds love. So if there are ties that you have to let go of, like family ties, do it. Or if there's something in your home that is not working energetically, maybe you need to do a declutter, or a feng shui or some kind of move the energy in a way that releases things that are not filling you with love. You know, we have the Marie Kondo, if it doesn't spark joy. I mean, that's one way to declutter. There's many ways. Just go on YouTube, you'll go down a whole rabbit hole. But this is the area. It's either your physical home, your home, the people that live in your home, or your family of origin, your roots, your parents, maybe. There's something there that Pluto is demolishing and rebuilding. So take a look at what might be crumbling and what needs to be let go in that area, and what the new imprint of what that could look like is for you. You could even create something like an ancestral healing circle, or look up ancestral healing and do some of that, where you blend, I don't know, community with some kind of ritual or that sort of a thing. Next, we have Sagittarius. Okay, so here we're talking about communication, your local community. We're talking about documentation and information and learning patterns, and people who are your peers, so your siblings or your neighbors or peers that you maybe work with. This is where the transformation is happening for you. What you might find with these people and in these areas, your local community, your neighbors, your siblings, your peers of some sort, is that you are having a tendency to be speaking to be right instead of to connect. So take a look at that and see if there's some argument going on in your, HOA or your whatever local community, or your family, siblings, especially the people that are on the same level as you, where you're getting stuck in on, I know I'm right on this and I have to keep pushing this forward, and maybe back off a bit and take a look at it more like, how can I connect? How can we connect? Where do we have a shared value? That's the start of that nonviolent communication. It's like we all have values. If we can find a value that we share, there's a starting point, right? So maybe notice where that might be happening for you. Another way is to practice the idea of sacred conversation, right? Where you listen 70% and speak 30. Sometimes we could even make that bigger difference, where you're listening 80% and speaking 20, because I think it's very easy to get caught up in the not listening, because you're getting ready to say, you're already thinking of what the next thing you want to say is, right? And rather than just focus on the listening, and then when they're done, coming up with what it is you need to say, right? So it takes some practice, but that might be a great thing for you guys. And sharing little teachings, little micro teachings that uplift people rather than try to convince people of something. For those of you that are business owners, if you put out like a newsletter or something like that, maybe you could make it more into these little weekly energy notes that are just channeling some kind of collective insight in very plain language, right? Like little uplifting things that are bringing a more positive energy into the ethos. And then for you Capricorns, rising sun and moon, or moon, I should say. Okay, this is happening in the house of worth and resources. So this is about your relationship with money and value. And so how that might be looking, the shadow that might be coming up is maybe this idea of equating your worth with your output. If you're not putting out more than people are buying or whatever, like you are equating your value and your worth with that external measure. So watch out for that. Or another way this might show up is that you start hoarding, like stocking up whatever toilet paper or whatever the thing is in that energy of, I might not have it, I might need it, like that fear of not being secure. So watch where that might be happening in your life. And in your business, it might show up like, where you're setting prices based on fear, right? So we want to flip the script. Set your prices based on energy. What feels energetically correct, not the fear of whether somebody can pay that or not, or what will people think if I charge that, or that sort of a thing. And so what you want to do is anchor that abundance through, you can like show that you trust that. right? Through stewardship. So like I'm gonna use the word tithing, or just giving, contributing to the earth, to planting trees, to feeding your neighbors, to growing a garden and sharing it with your neighbors, or things like that, right? Like where you are anchoring abundance somehow and sharing it with others. Yeah, you could create like a community fund where every 10th sale that you make supports someone else that's trying to start their business. Something like that. These shared community type ideas and organizations are really, again, I'm going to say it, you're going to hear me say it a lot, are the things that are going to carry us forward into this new earth. All right, where are my Aquarius rising people? Aquarius sun and moon also may take a look at this section where we are talking about this transformation happening with your self-image, your vitality, your physical vitality, your leadership frequency, how people see you. It's your front door basically of who you are. Like that's your body, your physical body, and how you're seen. And so, okay, what might be going on with this transit of Pluto through this area of your chart is that there might be a lack of grounding. There might be a feeling of detachment, of maybe not connecting with your body, not connecting with who you are. And so what you want to look at is really like, who am I? What is the image I really want to portray physically, right? How's my vitality? Are there areas where I need to maybe do something that's going to make me feel a little more energetic? So some things you can do are to truly embody your message, know what your message is, and then wear it. Wear colors or fabrics or styles that embody that. That's one way. Another is to walk the talk. I mean, it's just, should be doing that all the time, but check if you're not. Speak it in all ways, right? Just even in your day-to-day activities and also in your messaging to others, right? And then another way to kind of make sure that your vitality stays strong is, what kind of self-care things can you do? Do you maybe design a morning ritual that brings in the breath and movement of some sort, affirmation, setting the tone for the day right away before you get off, into something else and then it doesn't happen. Grounding, like go outside first thing in the morning and just put your feet on the ground, do some grounding, right? And yeah, and tell yourself, I am the future remembering itself. Something as simple as that. And last but not least, we have Pisces. So if you have Pisces rising, this is definitely for you. And sun and moon can also take a peek at this as well and get some insights. Okay, this is going to be the area of unconscious loops. This is the area of our own undoing, things we don't see coming because we hid them from ourselves or other people are hiding them from us. But they're often our hidden fears, our unconscious messages, those unconscious loops that we got going on in our head. There's also, spiritual practice falls under this area as well. And so what you might be seeing, if this is you, is some form of escapism. Are you watching TV too much? Are you eating too much sugar? Are you just doom scrolling constantly? Just not, just kind of putting yourself somewhere else so you don't have to look at what's happening in the world around you, in your own world, in your own life. Avoidance, right? This is a big word. Like this is what could be coming up as Pluto moves through this area, or the martyr patterns, right? Like coming in and just being oh, well, woe is me. And, I guess I have to be the one to do this, or that sort of a thing. So some things you can do to counteract that if you're feeling that somewhere in your life is to create time, create sacred space for yourself, create sacred solitude. You can sign up for my little Create Sacred Space freebie down below. It's just a nice little reminder of how to do that for yourself in a really simple, easy way. Maybe take some time away from technology, take some time offline, 1 hour a week, no technology, or go even beyond that, no technology, and just stay in silence, like a little mini silent retreat for 1 hour. Any find those energy leaks, whether it's a person at work or whether it's, just someone that if you talk to, that's like, you're going to come away from it, oh, tired. End those, close those out. Don't continue to connect. And those energy leaks, maybe, or maybe you're doing some sort of work in some way that's an energetic drain. And if you can close that loop, that leak up, this is the time to be doing it. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a nice, simple little ritual that you can do to anchor this Pluto going direct energy. So first of all, as always, we can light a candle and say something like, I welcome the light that reveals my power. Then take a piece of paper and write 3 areas where these old control structures still run your life. Just write them down. What are the areas? It could be work, could be a relationship, could be your beliefs, and then burn or tear up that paper and just whisper, I release the old order. Let it go. Then pour some fresh water into a bowl and then name 3 values you choose to build the new earth with. What are you putting in place of those old structures that you are releasing? They could be truth, beauty, collaboration, whatever your 3 are. And then rinse your hands and say, I build with clarity and grace. And then just take a few breaths, watching the flame and the water together. Notice how fire and water, they flow, they coexist in you. And then just extinguish the candle with gratitude, ground by touching the floor of the earth, and affirm it is done and know that it is. And do this once during this station window. It could be over the course of this weekend into the next week, at the beginning of this Pluto going direct. And then again, anytime, again, when you feel these kind of inner tremors of change, if you're feeling that kind of off balanceness of things are shifting for you, it'd be another great time to do this little ritual. So Pluto's direct motion is not a deadline. It is a lifelong invitation. Every act of consciousness, every act of conscious creation sends a ripple into the collective morphic field. When you make art from truth, when you teach from embodiment, from knowing it, or if you just simply rest without guilt, you stabilize, you set the example. You are stabilizing the grid for everyone else. This is what we all need, for all of us to be doing that, because a rising tide raises all ships. So we are all part of that collective water. And every time one of us does something like that, making art from truth, teaching from embodiment, resting without guilt, you are stabilizing the grid for everyone else. I'll say it again. And that 5 of Swords, I'm going to come back to, it has asked you to put down the old fight. Put that down. And in your hand, you now have the star. Put those cards out and meditate on them for a while. That star is now handing you the blueprint for rebuilding. And Saturn, Aquarius's ancient ruler, whispers to you, keep it real. Keep it repeatable. Keep it sacred. I would love to hear from you. What house does that 1 degree Aquarius fall in for you? Where is Aquarius in your chart? Which part of your life feels ready for rebirth? Comment below and let's witness each other's transformations. This is how we weave collective magic. Pluto direct at 1 degree of Aquarius marks the first inhale of a new civilization. The old game of power over is dissolving. What's emerging is power with co-creation, with truth, with stewardship. If this transmission resonated, like the video, subscribe, share it with a friend who's awakening to their own sovereignty. And if you are ready to explore how Pluto is shaping your chart and your future, I would invite you to book a cosmic energy consultation. You'll find the link down below. And together we will map your next evolutionary chapter with clarity, with compassion, and practical steps. Until next time, keep shining your brilliance.